The harbor is small and kindly. Boats do not clink or clatter. They breathe. One slow sound as the tide lifts them and sets them down again. Evening keeps to the edges, turning the water the color of a pressed violet. The inn stands just above the stone quay, its windows warm with the sort of light a kettle makes when it is almost ready. A sign swings without squeak. The Moon Harbor Inn. Ari arrives with a small bag and the kind of tired that is mostly in the face. The door opens at the weight of a thought, and the air inside smells faintly of lemon peel and wool blankets that remember sunlight. On the left is a desk with a ledger. On the right is a clock that runs on candlelight, each inch of wax a quiet minute, each drip a small permission to slow down. "Welcome," says the keeper. Her voice has the gentleness of a folded shirt. "No hurry. Rooms find people when they're ready." She writes Ari's name in the ledger with a pencil that never scratches, only whispers. A tabby cat, dusty gold with a white chin, looks up from a basket and closes its eyes again, the way safe creatures do. Ari is shown to a room that faces the water. The bed has a quilt pieced from the softest blue scraps, the kind of blues that belong to riverbanks, winter sky, and shirts dried on a line. The window is already open to the evening, and the curtains practice a slow tide of their own, in and out, in and out. There is a small table set with a clay cup, a glass of water, and a note that reads, "You may set down what you carried. The room will keep it for the night." On the far wall a wooden frame holds a tide map. It is not the official chart you might see in a shop. This one shows wider truth. High tide labeled, gather. Low tide labeled, rest. Slack tide labeled, listen. A small brass hand can be moved with one finger. Ari moves it to listen without thinking and feels the room nod. Dinner is simple: warm bread, soft cheese, slices of pear, a bowl of soup that tastes like garden and rain. People speak in a low register if they speak at all. Words in this place are like shells. You pick them up carefully and put them down where someone else can find them. The keeper pours hot water over a spoonful of herbs and says, "Sip as if you had all night." Ari does. After supper the harbor grows darker, not with heaviness but with softness. Boots on the quay step lighter. A lantern in a boat keeps a round, quiet promise. The candle clock at the desk gives up another measured inch and the flame sets its shoulders. A bell rings somewhere, not for the ear but for the breath. One clear tone, then silence. The cat stretches and performs the old ceremony of turning twice in the basket before it curls. Ari follows the corridor, where framed photographs hang at a height that meets an easy gaze. A pair of oars left to dry, an empty chair facing sunlit water, a wooden spoon against a flour-dusted bowl. Every picture looks like the beginning of a nap. At the end of the hall, an alcove. In it, the tide table, a low, broad table made of pale driftwood. On top, smooth pebbles in little bowls, each labeled in pencil. Morning wind, warm step, quiet rain, found feather. You are allowed, a small card says, to take one to your room and return it in the morning. Ari chooses a pebble the color of cloud edges. It warms in the hand the way a word warms when you say it kindly. Back in the room, the window has grown darker but not deep. There is a moon with no reason to hurry. The quilt receives the day like a friend at the door who has already made the tea. Ari places the pebble on the table next to the glass and sits on the bed edge the way you sit at the edge of a pond, letting thought learn stillness from water. The pillow feels like an early decision that was the right one. The harbor keeps its one sound. The room keeps its cool. Ari adds one slow breath to the room and the room makes space for it. The candle in the hallway, visible through a thin stripe of door, offers a final inch. It is enough. Sleep does not arrive all at once. It comes like a boat at slack tide. First the idea of it, then the sight of it, then the careful coming alongside. The rope to tie it is only air and patience. Ari lies down. The quilt takes the shape it has been practicing all day. The window breathes. The cat downstairs shifts and makes a satisfied sound, as if remembering something soft from a long time ago. The tide turns somewhere outside and inside at the same time, and night chooses this room to rest in while it goes about its work. Ari closes the eyes that have looked, and lets the harbor look back. "Good night," says the candle clock without speaking, and the room agrees. Morning is a promise for later. For now, there is the middle night and its gentle errands. Ari wakes, not fully, to the sound of the harbor's one breath and the faintest clink of a cup placed on wood. The inn knows how to walk without footsteps. A tray waits at the door when Ari opens it. Warm water with lemon, a small saucer with 2 biscuits the color of sand, and a note. The gallery is open. The corridor to the gallery is carpeted with a runner made from old sailcloth, seams visible like maps. Lamps are hooded and polite. The door stands ajar. Inside, air moves only enough to remind fabric that it can. This room collects the work of hands that never hurried. Quilts with calm geometry, baskets that remember the shape of knees, knitted squares like squares of afternoon. A long table holds tools at rest, scissors with round tips, needles threaded but paused, a plane that once listened to pine. There's a chair with a dent where someone's shoulder lived for years while stories were told and retold. Along the wall, small frames display photographs of hands. Not faces, not names. Hands. Carrying, holding, smoothing, tying, washing, lifting bread, steadying a child's elbow, turning a page. Next to each photograph, a single sentence. The day went well. The dough rose. The coat fit again. The letter was kinder than expected. Respect is a quiet kind of light here. In the far corner, a loom holds a piece half woven. The shuttle rests with the gravity of a sleeping bird. A card reads, "You may add a line if you like." Ari hesitates, then sits, touches thread, and passes weft through warp once, just once. The loom accepts this as if it knew Ari would come. It's enough to belong. The keeper arrives with steps that are already quiet before they begin. "People tell me they sleep well after the gallery," she says, straightening a quilt edge, as if straightening might be a blessing. Hands remember their work. Then they allow themselves to rest. She moves a basket a finger's width, and the room nods. Ari lingers by a smaller table. Jars with labels in ink that lean slightly toward kindness. Rain on the roof, a jar of tiny glass beads. Pine at dusk, a pinch of needles. Old wool, a curl of yarn. Warm spoon, a bit of polished wood. They are not to be opened, they are to be looked at. Looking is enough to remind the body of what it already knows. On the windowsill, a slug of clear glass shaped like a wave holds folded slips of paper. The sign says, "Write a thank you to your own hands." Ari writes, "Thank you for unlocking the door, for pouring water, for not insisting." The slip joins the others. Gratitude is another kind of quilt top, made of little squares that don't need to match. The keeper brings a low chair, places it by the window where night has become the blue before blue. "Sit for the breath that has your name," she says. Every night saves one. Ari sits. It is not a practice, not a method, not a task. It is simply breath, steady and long enough to leave space at the ends. The window fogs a little at each out-breath and clears a little at each in. When the bell sounds, again that one friendly note, Ari rises. The gallery closes itself behind without sadness. Rooms in this inn know how to keep watch without being awake. The corridor leads not back to bed yet, but toward a door with a sign, Night Garden. Before that, a pause in a small room at the turn. A basin and a folded towel. A mirror that does not sharpen edges. A shelf with a comb, a jar of balm for the lips, and a phrase on a card. Kindness is apace. Ari wets the face with warm water and notices how skin learns softness by being met with softness. The towel is heavy in a way that brings shoulders down one more small floor. Back in the hall, a window shows the harbor in silver scale. In the water a long fish turns, leaving nothing but a comma. Far away a lamp is put out by hand. The world is being careful with itself. Ari returns the pebble from last night to the tide table, laying it in the bowl labeled Quiet Rain. The hand finds another without looking, a pebble that is not smooth but gently ridged. It fits the palm and offers a small ridge for the thumb. On its label, Steady. The room is waiting, unchanged and somehow kinder. The bed has kept its hollow. The cup keeps its circle on the wood in a way that pleases the eye. The window continues its tide. Ari lies down, covering the knees with the quilt exactly as the quilt asks. The thumb finds the ridge on the pebble. Breath remembers the note it was offered. Sleep comes closer and does not ask for attention. Ari listens to the inn listening to Ari. Two quiet creatures, each watching the other become still. There will be the night garden. There will be the bell tower. There will be the slow dawn that walks down the cobbles with bare feet. But that is later. For now, the harbor is a steady hand under the room. The bed is a slow boat with good manners. The pillow is the horizon you can trust. The candle clock gives up one more inch and does not discuss it. It is enough. The door to the courtyard opens to a breath that smells of mint and stone. Lamps in the garden are small and low, stitched into the beds like careful stars. Leaves hold droplets that do not fall. Paths are wide enough for worry to walk beside you and then wander off without offense. The night garden belongs to the inn the way a pocket belongs to a coat. It keeps a handful of quiet and offers it back in seasons. There's a plot of chamomile dozing on its feet. A stand of lavender like a soft choir at rehearsal. Time making the air remember supper and blankets at once. In the center, a shallow pool. Not a fountain, no spout, no splash, just a circle of water teaching stillness to the moon. Benches sit where the backs are glad of them. Ari sits. The wood receives the small weight and shares it with the stone. A sign beside the pool says look for the first star that isn't in a hurry. There are many, but one is most patient, letting the eye arrive without effort. Ari lets it. The star is not a lesson. It is a companion who prefers silence. A gardener tends without tools. He moves by noticing. A leaf turned wrong way, a stem that wants to stand nearer its friend, a pebble that could do a kinder job somewhere else. He adjusts what asks for adjustment. Welcome, he says, as though the word is the same shape as the gate. Everything grows easier when someone is sleeping well nearby. Ari smiles with the smallest part of the mouth. I'm learning. He nods. Roots teach slowly. That's their secret. He points to the chamomile. Those flowers add a good ounce to pillows. Not weight, willingness. He lifts a sprig and sets it down exactly where it was. In one corner a structure stands, glass panes, wooden ribs, a door left slightly open. A conservatory for the plants that like their nights a degree warmer. Lemon balm, shy basil, and a fig tree with leaves big enough to be invitations. Ari steps inside and the air at once holds and lets go. On a shelf, unlit candles sit among terracotta pots. Each candle bears a label. First page, last light, windows open, rain held back. They are not for burning tonight. They are reminders. At waist height a tray holds little squares of card and a pencil. Write something you will not make yourself keep tomorrow. Ari writes, finish everything. Then crosses it out in a neat line. Underneath, finish what asks to be finished. Let the rest wait and lose their edges. The card goes in a slot. The slot lights briefly, in agreement. Back outside, the pool shows the moon beginning to thin. The gardener scatters on the water a tiny pinch of rose petals. They do not make circles. They simply float. Ari watches until watching becomes the same as closing the eyes. The bell in the harbor tower, a bell that never scolds, gives one slow sound. Not louder than a breath left on a window. In the garden, moths change places as if swapping small errands. A breeze remembers a road through the rosemary and then leaves it better than it found it. Ari returns to the room more slowly than they left it. The corridor bends in the direction the shoulders prefer. The cat has relocated to a second basket and is in conversation with the idea of warmth. At the tide table, the bowl labeled warm step looks fuller than before, though no one would swear it. The candle clock has shortened again, but as if time were a long scarf being rolled, not a rope being pulled. The bed accepts Ari for a second time. Beds like this remember and then improve. The thumb finds the ridge on the pebble and learns it from the other side. The quilt has a small place by the ankle that is cooler to the touch. It waits there, ready to become warm and then remain so. Something in the body that is neither thought nor bone nor breath slides down from wakefulness to the gentle slope below it. It rests there, listening to the harbor and to the inn and to its own steady insistence that the day has done enough. Sleep lifts its head again from the basket on the floor between ribs and spine. It doesn't rush. It approaches like a cat to a lap that will be there whenever the cat is ready. At the border of sleep, Ari remembers the loom and its single pass of weft. Threads crossing, holding without knotting, asking nothing but room and a little weight. The memory folds like a napkin and is put away. The next breath arrives, and then the next, and each one shakes a grain of sand from the mind's pocket. The gardener closes the garden gate behind a moth with courtesy. The bell has nothing further to add. The pool holds the moon until the moon shows it is capable of holding itself. The inn settles down through its timbers and beams like a great animal lowering itself to rest. Ari sleeps. If waking must come, let it come as a tide, reaching without grabbing. The harbor brings a paler sound to the window. The sky mixes gray with the blue it intends to wear later. The candle clock by the desk outside is a thumb of wax. Someone will replace it after breakfast and the new flame will not think itself more important than the old. The bell tower can be climbed by a stair that was made for people with time. The steps are low and wide, and each one says you first to the foot that needs it. Ari goes up with the sort of patience that has already eaten. At the top, the view is nothing complicated. The small harbor, the line where water pretends to end. Roofs that were careful through the night. The bell sits in a wooden frame and looks like it can keep promises. It is rung only once, the keeper says from the doorway, her hands folded in a way that suggests completion. And only when morning has already decided to be kind. She nods toward a small rope. Would you like to offer the day the first yawn? Ari pulls, and the bell moves through the air the way a spoon moves through warm batter. The sound leaves without haste, finds the street, the boats, the cat, the quilts, and the inside of 100 cups. It is a tone that tells bread to rise and shoulders to lower and conversation to begin softly. Somewhere a child turns over and sleeps a little longer. The keeper smiles. We will keep the rest of the sounds for later. She points to a corner where a jar holds slips of paper like dried leaves. Ringtones for rain, the label says. We keep recordings here of all the rains we've known, she explains. People take one home to play when they forget how to sleep. Ari reads the dates, the small notes. April, gentle, on tin roof. August, far thunder. November, steady, at window latch. The slips make no noise but the paper noise that books make when they like being handled. Back downstairs, the dining room behaves like a kindness. Toast sits with butter made patient by room temperature. Honey waits in a clear jar with a spoon that respects it. Porridge has a small pond of cream in the middle and remembers the hand that stirred it. People say good morning as if both words are true. The tide table invites the pebble back. Ari returns it to steady and adds a new one from a bowl labeled Harbor Light. The new pebble is pale and irregular, as if shaped by a list of things not done. It looks comfortable with this shape. The hand makes a pocket. The pebble agrees to wait there. The ledger at the desk holds the same names it held last night, now with little dots by some. People who will leave after breakfast. People who will stay. People who will think about staying and leave anyway but carry something soft with them in the sleeve. The cat considers a patch of sun nobody has officially granted permission to exist and approves it. Ari walks once more through the gallery. The loom's weft is invisibly longer. Someone else has passed the shuttle. A new photo has appeared on the wall. 2 hands holding a pillow and a sentence beneath, "It was enough." The garden gate is open. You can see the mint has already chosen who it wishes to be today. The pool is a mirror for a sky that is not sure yet. At the door, shoes that came in last night look ready to visit the cobbles. The keeper stands with the ledger closed, because departures deserve the same privacy as sleep. She offers a small tin the size of a cookie. Inside, a circle of beeswax infused with the faintest chamomile. For the road, she says. Warm it in your palms just before bed, and remember the harbor's one sound. Ari thanks her with words that do not embarrass either of them. Outside, the harbor keeps breathing. The boats lift and settle. The bell will not ring again today, it has said enough. That is the word that runs through this place like a thread you can't see. Enough. Enough light, enough quiet, enough warmth, enough time. At the corner of the quay, a bench avoids the wind as if it were never there. Ari sits briefly, sets the tin in the pocket with the pebble, and lets the body understand that soon it will move and then move in a different place and then lie down again, perhaps far from here, perhaps not. But the inn has offered a way to do each action at a human pace, and the body has learned it. The first shop on the lane sweeps its step without wanting applause. A dog chooses the patch of sun the cat approved earlier, both are right. A gull decides not to make the usual sound. Someone hangs a towel and it becomes a flag for a country where mornings are friendly to people who slept. Ari stands. The shoulder straps of the bag find where they belong and do not argue with bone. The door to the inn opens again at the weight of a thought and closes without a goodbye, which is the kindest kind when you know you will return whenever you need to. The sign swings without squeak. Roads away from harbors have a way of becoming roads back to them when they need to be. Ari walks toward whichever is correct for today. The breath is longer now, the jaw is not holding on to anything it doesn't need, and the eyes know how to close when they are asked. Somewhere, later, in a room that is not this room but knows the idea of it, a window will be opened a small amount, a light will be lowered, and the tin of beeswax will be warmed between hands. The pebble will rest on a table, and the harbor's one sound will continue in the chest, slower and sure. Sleep will come again, not because it must, but because it may. And if someone asks where you learned this pace, you can say, at a small inn by a quiet harbor, where the candle clock keeps time by melting in the tide chart labels slack water as listen. And then you will close your eyes. And then the night will say, as it always hoped to say, good night.